Hello YouTubers and internet people. I have something exciting to show you today. What you are looking at is the desktop of Skywave Linux version 4. This is a sneak peek, a pre-release viewing of the latest and greatest operating system focused on making it easy for you to stream content from online SDRs, content from some internet broadcasters, and also to plug in your own devices and access signals that are around you for whatever reason you want to listen, and without any limitation from overbearing dictators who want to control your media. Now, let's take a look at what's going on here. We're using Ubuntu 20.04. The desktop environment is MATE, rhymes with latte. And the window manager is the i3 window manager. Most people describe it as a tiling window manager, but it is also a tabbing window manager, and that's how it is set up in Skywave Linux version 4. A quick tour of the desktop. On the top left, we have a list of workspaces. We only have one workspace in use at the moment, and some blank space, and then status indications. There's Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Bluetooth, battery power remaining, disk space remaining, RAM used, CPU load, volume setting, the time, and on the far right, a group of tray icons for applications that are currently in use. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, the screen key utility. That's screen key. And on the right is my screen recorder. Skywave Linux version 4 has a somewhat different menu than what a lot of you are used to using. Instead of clicking on a button up here, what you do is either right-click or use a two-finger tap on a touchpad, and it brings up an application called Rofi. It is a combined window list and application launcher. There are no categories in Rofi, so all of these applications are grouped according to how often you use them. Your most frequently used applications are up top. The less frequently used apps have icons down lower. This is the second column, and these are even less frequently used. And then it falls down to an alphabetical list, which runs for a couple of pages. I've been practicing this presentation for a few times, going in and out of the screen recorder and Firefox, GQRX, etc. So let's take a look at Firefox. Simply double-click. Firefox will come up as a floating window by default. And the old favorite SDR list is now incorporated into Firefox as bookmarks. So for OpenWebRx sites, mostly the Kiwi SDR hardware, these are a curated list, and they're in one set of bookmarks. There's another set for WebSDR. These can be just about any kind of hardware. A lot of them are RTL-SDRs. Some of them are homebrewed. Some of them are soft rocks. Some of them might even be a Kiwi SDR. Why, I don't know, but you can do it with these. Firefox also has the old groupings of forums and blogs, reference sites for information on Linux distros and where to go to troubleshoot your system. What else is here? I've got a few quick bookmarks that I stashed for this presentation. So that's what's in Firefox. Let's take a look at some SDRs. You simply go to the list, click on a bookmark for a site in a geographical area that you want to listen in, and then you wait. I have to wait a little bit longer at this location because the internet is severely filtered and foreign access is choked. So when I click on something that's overseas, I actually have to wait for a while for the slow trickle of ones and zeros to make it to this system and then render on the screen. Any day now. Okay, here we go. This SDR in Iceland is actually pretty good. They have a good antenna, and they're located in a prime position for monitoring air traffic over the NAT tracks. 5616 doesn't seem to have much going on at the moment. Let's go to 5505. Let's see how Shannon involvement is doing. Now, why did it do that? That's not what I entered. 5505.
Viewpoint 1.
There it is. Shannon involvement.
6 QNH 1011. Tempo visibility 6
Now,
kilometers.
Notice that this is a floating window, and also there is no set of icons to control the window to minimize, maximize, or close. I3 is keyboard centric and not so much mouse oriented. If you want to close a window, you have to use a key combination or go to the menu, pull the drop down open, and then hit quit. I'm going to do something before I close it though and show you how the tabbing works. Use Shift, Super, and Space, and that takes the window out of floating mode and puts it into the maximized or tabbed mode. Let's open up a terminal. Tuned away for a moment. Now notice, this is floating, that one is tabbed. We can move them both into tabbed, and then I can click over and work on this window here. Let's get this thing tuned back in. Use the right arrow.
230 degrees, 15 knots.
Set things back to the way they should be if we're going to listen to Shannon involvement. Now, a tabbed window looks as you see here. This one is the focused window, a little bit lighter and brighter in color. And then there's the inactive window, which is a bit darker. Click on that, and we switch over. This is the terminal. I'm typing in gibberish and it has no idea what I want. The terminals are somewhat transparent in Skywave Linux. Just for aesthetic purposes, it's pretty, and I can also look through and see what's going on the other side. This particular terminal has opened up inside of another application called TMUX, the Terminal Multiplexer. I use it for working on servers on the internet for various tasks. TMUX is nice because you can have more than one terminal open. You can close the window, reopen it, and the terminals are still there, and the tasks you have running are still running even if you close the window or you lose your connection. So that's why it is in Skywave Linux version 4, because some of you might benefit from having TMUX on the system. Let's move on to closing windows. Let's go to Shift Super Q to quit that one. Shift Super Q to quit Firefox. Now to open Rofi and bring up that list of applications, we don't have to go up to the i3 bar and click on it. We can use Super R, which is short for Rofi, Super R, and that will bring up the menu as well. Let's go to GQ-RX. GQ-RX is on version 2.12. It's had some very nice internal improvements. It's also received an update to the waterfall palette. So there are more colors available to you if you want to use something other than the default colors. Currently I have it on the RTL-SDR and set to frequency 117.0. There's a weak VOR on that station, on that frequency. It's just above the noise. And in fact, during the day, it has faded down into the noise and then come back up above it a little bit. So there's a bit of tropo going on where I can hear it right now. So that's GQ-RX. I'll stop the DSP and again, Shift Super Q to close the window. i3 is very keyboard oriented. So a very well configured system will have keyboard shortcuts and hotkeys to do things. I've got some of that here in Skywave Linux. I could probably do more, but it then becomes much more complicated and maybe less appealing to those of you out there in cyberspace, radio land, etc. Let's bring up another piece of software. First, Rofi Super R, and we want Cubic SDR. These are the two main SDR applications if you want to simply tune around and listen to things or make recordings of things you hear. Tune them with these. Notice that there are two different interfaces available to Cubic SDR. There's Pulse Audio through the Soapy Audio plugin and also the RTL-SDR. So we're going to use this one. And it remembered that a little earlier I was listening to 117.0. So there it is in Cubic SDR. Super Shift Q to close that one. Now, there's one application which is new and I think important for Skywave Linux version 4. And if other people out there want to use the same script that's up on GitHub, I call it the SDR operating parameters script. With this, you can scan GSM phone towers and automatically calibrate the SDR. You can measure the frequency offset and save it. That offset can be used by other applications to help this thing tune more accurately. You can also check the SoapySDR device information. You plug in a device, you want to know what Soapy determines it is, what does it think about it, you can use that and it will tell you. For example, we'll try it. I've got an SDR, an RTL-SDR plugged in, and it brings up this information. It found the Soapy audio and it found the RTL-SDR driver. Now it's rather interesting. You can see here two different audio drivers. It only showed us one in Cubic SDR, but this utility found two. And right here, device 2 is the RTL-SDR. The driver is RTL-SDR. And the index 0, it noted that the serial for that one is 1. And what kind of tuner? It's the R820T tuner in that particular device. Now, there are some more things that the SDR operating parameters script can do for you. It's available for you to toggle the bias T on and off. If you want to set an offset manually, you can just enter it in. It saves time. Tuning in the phone signals and measuring the offset can take time. If you know the number, you can go straight in there and plug it in. If you know your SoapySDR device data, or if you have more than one plugged into the computer and you want to use a particular one for the apps in Skywave Linux, just plug it in here and go. You can also put in your geographic coordinates. Dump 1090 has a map that will use this information to draw the center of the map here. And then it can draw range rings and range arrows to the aircraft that it finds. Okay, next, let's look at something else. Just for a brief moment, let's have some fun with the VLC radio playlist. My favorite thing in the morning is to get up, have a cup of coffee, tune in BBC Radio 4 Longwave, and I either do it here in the playlist, stream it through the internet. If the internet is crap on a particular day, usually when there's some kind of important news event going on, like floods or unrest in any of the major cities, or if there's something negative in the news, the internet gets choked, then I have to resort to other things, because the BBC is one of the first things that gets censored. Come on, let's go. We might be entering one of these periods when they're nervous about the news and they're starting to block BBC servers.
Been quick to
okay.
act.
So according
There it
to
is.
recent figures, there are 21 cases
So
being
there's no
treated in
background noise.
hospitals
When
and
it works,
6
it
people in
sounds
intensive
really
care
good.
units. Some might consider it maybe too drastic, but
Now, that is a
there's
broadcast.
willingness here to find the right balance
I don't want to get a
between reopening the
copyright
economy, but
strike,
also
so I'm not going to
ensure
stay
safety.
on that. We're going to
Rail
call this
companies
fair
across
use.
Britain will expand their services
Just
to
to
around
talk about
80% of pre-lockdown
this
capacity from tomorrow to
endeavor
meet the
that we're
expected
in.
increase in demand. The government is still
Let's
advising
bring up this
against
jerk
the
Alex Jones here. I put him in here because sometimes I want to know what he's talking about and what other people are talking about. Mostly I disagree strongly, but he's there because you need to know. And this one is also rather slow to connect. Let's try this again.
on the coast.
Bring in the clowns, baby. Bring in the clowns. Alex Jones, bring in the clowns. Look at that. The screen key shows every single key that I'm hitting. Alright. That's bugging me, man. I got the punk station, and I didn't get Alex Jones. Let's try this again. VLC radio playlist. Better still, let's visit with Brother Stare for a little bit. Let's see what Brother Stare is talking about this morning. Let's see if he's in here. Hello. All right, Brother Stare has a service going. He's not preaching too much. He's got a group activity happening. Let's see. How about KPFA, Berkeley, California? If they're playing music, I'm probably going to switch away quickly. Internet is really crap today. It's not connecting and it's falling back to what it was on before. Alright, where's the clown? Where is he?
to go to the InfoWars site to get the
Hey, there
original
he is.
because there's a very, very limited number of those, and they will not be available.
Well, that's right. We're
again.
almost sold out, but Roger.
Yeah, so it still works. You know, these links change from time to time, so part of what I'm doing, clicking on that now, is to verify that it still works before I put this up on the internet. If all of you go out there and download this thing, it's going to weigh about 2.65 gigs. I don't think we're going to make 2.7 gigs, but 2.6, which is still a lot heavier. Skywave Linux 3 and all of the earlier ones were 2 gigabytes or less. This one is a bit larger and heavier.
And I'm Giles Snyder.
Okay, so there's a demo of the VLC radio playlist. Just to show you the difference between listening to a stream directly from the producer and listening to one on the internet. Let's go and listen to a web SDR with BBC Radio 4 long wave. Notice the difference in quality. I'll tell you, when I grab that cup of coffee and then try to tune in the BBC, I'm happy if I can stream it on the radio playlist. But sometimes it's being choked and I have better luck tuning in some anonymous site that the powers that be don't know much about. And I can stream content from an SDR with less hassle. Let's see here. Let's go to the Netherlands. University of Twente has a fantastic web SDR. That's the broadband analog to digital converter, the ADC. It goes all the way up, I think, through the whole HF range now. At one point, it was about 19 megahertz, and now it's way up there. I forget the exact top end, if it's 29 megs or 30 megs. As you can see, it does take a bit of time for the page to render. I have this bookmark set to load on frequency 198 kilohertz long wave. Any day now, any day. I'll be so happy if you work. Come on. Work for me, Daddy-O. There's whiskey in the jar. Come on. Let's go from floating mode to tabbed. Right now there is one tab. Let us open something else just to demonstrate. Let's go to tmux again and open a tmux window. Now this one is going to initially go tabbed to show you the difference. There's Firefox, there's tmux, there's Firefox, there's tmux, or the terminal, which is transparent. And this time, let's move Firefox to workspace 2. So now we have 2 workspaces. We're on workspace 1 with tmux, and workspace 2 with Firefox, which is still trying to load BBC Radio 4. So you should ask me, why do I bother with 100 megabit internet when I have to struggle to hear these things, these relatively thin streams from these SDRs? Doggone it. Let's go, let's go. So it slowly renders.
Virus.
Here we go. She said the word virus. Did you hear that?
And the PM is still with us. PM telling the population not to overdo it. Really.
All right, that's pretty choppy.
About
5505.
now behaves.
I don't want a copyright strike here on YouTube, so let's go up with sideband 5505.
Of course.
Let Shannon Volmet tell us what the weather is and a few aerodromes.
Where he lives.
So the command to change frequency and mode has to go out to the SDR, which takes time, and then it changes modes, and then the stream comes back out through the filter and back in through the filter. The internet is complete crap today. So, one more thing about the terminal. I've mentioned before that when you use super and enter or super return, you get TMUX, which is the Multiplexer terminal. And you can actually open up more terminal windows in tabbed fashion altogether in here. For example, Control A, and then that. So now we have two terminals. This is 2, and this one is 1. So if you have some complex task, or if you just want to work on 2 different servers or 2 different windows on the same server, or even on this local computer, you can do that. And to get out, the best way to do it is just type the word exit, and you go out. We'll move over to workspace 2, and we're still with a very noisy shed environment. Let's see here. How about RTE Ireland? 2, 4, 5. I forgot the frequency. It's someplace around there. Let's look for them. Oh, here it is. 252. Of course, the internet connection between here and this SDR is not very good at the moment. It just noticed that I switched to AM. I think by now it should know that I'm on a new frequency as well with RTE radio. Crap internet. Alright, I just don't have the patience to deal with low quality internet right now. I think I might have to go and start looking into the news, go on Twitter and find some of the news people that I follow and see what's going on. Because if they're choking the internet like that on a Saturday night, it usually means something's going on in geopolitics. And if things get too ugly, I might have to run. And I don't know where to run to, considering all of the troubles traveling with this darn virus. I might have to just charge up my camera and my phone and just go and photograph and make videos of whatever happens if things turn ugly here on the Strait. Speaking of the Strait, I don't recall demonstrating dump 1090 for you here in this version of the presentation on Skywave Linux. Let's go and do that right now. Remember, in earlier versions, dump 1090 would ask a lot of questions. What are your geographic coordinates? How much gain do you want? What's the ppm offset of your SDR? It doesn't ask any of that. It simply brings up a window and asks, what do you want? Start dump 1090 and write all of the data on these aircraft into a log file. Start dump 1090 and put it into a database that can be searched and manipulated and coded, whatever. Or do you just want to open a map and plot aircraft positions and see where they are? Let's do that. Let's start dump 1090, plot the aircraft on a map. I almost said chart because I usually think of charts, aeronautical charts, maritime charts. And I'm going to drop that terminology because here in Firefox, it's just a map. A base map with some layers on top of the base map. It's found a couple of aircraft, and it's showing one with a position. I'm going to get rid of that range arrow. Where is it? I think it's this one. And here we go. A couple of aircraft along the coast. can hear something overhead. So there is some traffic around as we go into the evening. All right. What else can we demonstrate here on this thing? There's also the multi-channel voice. In previous iterations of Skywave Linux, you had the choice between local audio through Pulse and also running that audio through an IceCast server. For some reason, when I upgraded to Ubuntu 20.04, the IceCast server stopped working, and no matter what I did, I could not get it to take audio from the RTL-SDR airband application, which is where the actual audio comes from. It's the engine behind this script. And there's also multi-channel ACARs, multi-channel VDL mode 2. There's a trunk receiver in here called SDR trunk. SDR trunk will receive the trunk signal and break it up into separate talk groups, conversations. You can pick through that and listen to whatever you want. There are some that are encrypted, probably more and more going encrypted over time. And for those, I do not have the decoder installed. However, SDR trunk has an installer built into it, and you can use that if you have an internet connection on your computer. Use the installer in SDR trunk, and you can compile and activate the decoder, and then you can encrypt. Correction, you can decrypt the conversations on your local trunked system. This thing is tuned right now to 857 megahertz, and there's nothing on there. In this particular area, there may be a trunk system in use. I don't know. I have not been able to find anything like that. But I want to show that to you for the purposes of this pre-release demonstration of Skywave Linux 4.0. All right, let's go into some more i3 stuff if we can. So Super R, that's the Windows button, and R brings up the menu. What else can I open up? gpredict. If you're tracking satellites, gpredict has a database of satellites and their orbital elements, and it can check the time and then figure where these satellites are located. There's a group of amateur satellites, different places around the world, and moving. If I left this on, you would notice those circles gradually move as the satellites traverse the surface, above the surface, as they make their way around their orbits. Super Shift Q to close. Once again, the i3 window manager is very keyboard oriented. You've seen me use Super Shift Q to close things, Super R to bring up the Rofi menu, Super Enter to bring up the terminal. So there are numerous key combinations that you can use to bring things up or close things. Okay, what happened here? I used Super and Enter. Did we get a terminal window? Did tmux come up or not? I don't think so. Oh, I know why. Because Rofi was there. It was probably waiting for me to enter, show what program I wanted to run. Notice this. Now, we have an application here on desktop or workspace 2 to bring up Rofi. It does function as a window list. It says Window 2 Mate Terminal. It does not say tmux, but This is a terminal, and tmux is running in the terminal. Let's bring up something else. Let's go to GQRX again. Notice that GQRX did not come up as a floating window. It is not one that is set to float by default. The terminal is, Firefox is, and the file browser is set up to float by default. I'll show you the file browser. The file browser is Kaja. I call it Kaja. I might be mispronouncing it. But there's the file browser. You can see I've had Dump 1090 running for a while, and it's got a number of messages that are saved. The database has some data. These are associated with the database. I know what I wanted to show you here before I wrapped up this presentation. The file editor, the text editor, is NeoVim, which is a derivative of Vim or VI improved. And it is absolutely fantastic if you write code, if you want to make your own scripts, either Bash or Python or some other computing language, or if you just want to write text or markdown files or just take your own notes about things. Vim is fantastic. Let's open up this script. I'll show you how it looks when you open up a Python script. It has syntax highlighting, automatic indentation, auto-completion. There's one quirk where sometimes the status bar at the bottom of the page renders here instead of down there. I'm going to do a trick and make it render properly by using supermod and space to put it into tabbing and then back to floating again. This is a floating window, a transparent floating window. And you can see Vim. It's got the very nice colors and syntax highlighting. And it's a very complex browser. There is absolutely not enough time to talk about it here in this presentation. There are dozens and dozens of videos on YouTube, and there are dozens and dozens of pages on the internet about Vim and NeoVim and how you can have fantastically efficient workflow in creating scripts, editing text, and doing lots of things that involve words, letters, and this window. But here it is. One of the great jokes that is cracked about people starting to use Vim for the first time is that they quickly discover they cannot simply hit Control X or Control Q to get out of Vim. It'll do something else, or it will just laugh at you. If you want to exit Vim, use Shift, colon, how about just one colon, and Q to get out, colon Q. Let's open up this comment.txt. This is basic text, so you won't have all of the special highlighting. You do have line numbers, and then just plain text. What does that say there? It says Skywave Linux 4.0 rocks. Yes, it does. And to get out of this, Control Q. And it's gone. Let's get rid of the file browser. Shift Mod Q. And it's gone. How about closing tmux? And let's see. Let's listen to the VOR one more time. Most of the time it's down in the noise, so I'm rather happy that it's faded up rather strongly. It's clear right now. But I'm going to ditch it. We'll say goodbye to this. And that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have seen the basics of Skywave Linux 4.0. There's a lot more to Vim. There's a lot more to i3. And there are more applications in here that I didn't demonstrate, mostly because it's a quiet Saturday evening over here. There's not a whole lot in the way of aircraft signals. There's some ADS-B. You saw dump 1090. And the other things just work. If I can get Lin HPSDR to work, it'll be in the distro when I release it tomorrow or the next day. And if I can't keep it from crashing and causing trouble, I'll just remove it. And you'll have a fantastic distro that just does not have Lin HPSDR. So enjoy your 4th of July and enjoy Skywave 4.0 when it hits the wires. Go ahead and download it, use it, enjoy it. It's designed for you to run just as an ISO file or as a virtual machine. If you want to install it as a full-on persistent install, there are ways to do that as well. And that's it. Take care. Bye-bye.